The history of brewing in Norwich stretches back to the 11th century, when our cathedral was home to a priory of Benedictine monks who maintained their own brewhouse, producing ale for the monks, their servants and their guests. Despite the brewing boom in the 19th century, when there were almost 40 pubs around the marketplace alone, by the 1920s Norwich had just a handful of breweries left, known collectively as the Big Four. Disaster struck in 1942 when one of the four, Morgan's, was destroyed in a German attack. By the 1970s, Norwich's remaining breweries had become monopolised by Watney Man, and when Watney Man was taken over by a national company, brewing in Norwich ceased altogether. That could have been the end of Norwich's brewing legacy, but no, beer doesn't stay off the menu in this city for long, and by the 1980s, the brewing resurgence had begun. Led by Star Brewery, Wolf Brewery and Woodforde's, there are now 40 microbreweries in Norwich and Norfolk. I've been out visiting some of those original microbreweries, if you like, the old kids on the block, to find out why there's been such a rise in microbreweries.
So reduced duty for small brewers has encouraged more and more people to get into the industry. It's been amazing how many have arrived and seem to be doing well. But the market is competitive. There's modest growth, but actually only the best, I think, will succeed and survive. I think we've been very lucky to be the first, really the first in the marketplace. I think we've been incredibly lucky that we've got two particularly famous beers in having won the Champion Beers of Britain.
The progressive beer duty made a big difference to the smaller brewers, so we were paying a lot less beer duty, and so we could compete with the national brewers. The rate some pubs are closing, it's always a moving marketplace. You have to diversify into different areas with sort of doing a lot more bottling as well now, and you're looking for different marketplaces for your product. So whether it be national or whether it be going into export or that in the future.
Well, it's certainly very good for the beer consumer, and us as CAMRA, we like it, obviously, because it gives a lot more choice of beers for us to drink. Each one of them probably doing half a dozen beers or more, and all doing different styles of beer. It's fantastic.
So what about the new kids on the block, and what obstacles have they faced as they've set up their business?
We were very lucky in many ways that we didn't face the same hurdles that some of the other local brewers did when they started up. Obviously, being connected with a very successful pub like the Fat Cat, and then with the brewery tap being associated with the brewery as well, we had a ready-made outlet for all of the beer that we were producing. Whereas many of the other microbrewers have to spend a lot of time phoning around and getting orders in from people. We didn't have to face that particular problem, and because we dealt with a number of other brewers around the country, we also then were able to expand by dealing directly and sending our products out around the whole of the UK rather than focusing on selling locally.
If the growth carries on, then you will see over the next 5 to 10 years some breweries fade away as the competition gets fiercer. I mean, obviously, from our point of view, we are currently the only person in Norfolk really fighting out to get onto draft lines, as more pubs in Norwich and Norfolk become free of tie and take on different products on the draft lines versus the hand pumps, which in a lot of even the tied pubs, they get to have a couple of them free. To have more local products on, which is why you do have such an abundance of the ale-based breweries and cask in Norwich and Norfolk, because there is an abundance of tied pubs that can't do anything on draft lines but can do it on cask lines.